Hello, welcome everyone to the Licensing Committee this afternoon, Tuesday the 1st of August 2023. So before we start, I just need to read out the webcasting introduction. So this meeting is to be webcast. Participants are reminded of the need to activate their microphones before speaking. I would like to remind everyone present that this meeting is being recorded and will be capable of repeated viewing or another use by such third parties. If you are seated in the lower public seating area, it is likely that the recording cameras will capture your image, and this will result in the possibility that your image will be part of the broadcast. This may infringe your human and data protection rights, and if you wish to avoid this, you should move to the upper public gallery. Do we have any apologies for absence?
No, Chairman, we have no apologies for absence this afternoon.
And are there any declarations of interest at all? No. Okay, I just need to remind members of the procedure for the conduct of business, pages 5 to 12. And we're here for the application for a premises licence at Bliss Heights, 140 London Road, Abridge, RM41XX. So I'm just going to do introductions now. So my name is Councillor Louise Mead. I'll be chairing the meeting this afternoon. To my right is Councillor Hadley, and to my left is Councillor Heather. The three of us are on the panel this afternoon to make the decision about this application. To my far right is Mr Gary Woodall, who is from Democratic Services. We have Steve, who is doing the webcast this afternoon, and far left is Natalie Botang from the Legal Department in the Council. From the Licensing Department is Mr King, who will be presenting the application this afternoon. Okay, so the applicant, would you like to introduce yourselves this afternoon to explain who you are, please? And to do that, you just press the button by the microphone. So if you could introduce yourselves, your name.
Good afternoon. My name is Legg, Jonathan Legg. I represent Mr Hussain in this application.
Can you introduce yourself?
Good afternoon. My name's Umar Hussain, and I'm the proprietor of 140 London Road, which is named as Bliss Heights.
Okay. Just to let you know, we also have a councillor here sitting, observing, and that's Councillor Matthews, who's up on the far left there at the top. So we have quite a few objectors here. So is there one person representing all of you, or are you all individual? If you're all individual, then if I ask you to introduce yourselves very quickly, pressing the microphone switch. So if I start with this middle row here, could you introduce yourselves, please? Can you just press the microphone, just say who you are? Can you just press the microphone so we can hear you? That's it, thank you.
My name's Patricia Stone, and I am here this afternoon to object to this application.
Okay, thank you. That's all you need to do, just introduce yourself, thank you. You don't need to stand up, don't worry. If you could just turn the microphone off now, that's fine. If you just quickly say your names, that's enough, that's fine.
Okay. My name is Iris Reeves.
Thank you. Could you introduce yourself, if possible? Your name?
Self.
Yeah.
Hi, my name's Mark Harris.
Okay. And yourself?
Catherine Wilson.
Yeah. If you could just turn your microphones off each time. Yeah, thank you. And sir? Thank you. Thank you, that's fine. And
Roy Ellis.
okay, thank you very much. And you two ladies at the top, would you mind introducing?
Cathy Smith. Jane Coots.
Thank you very much. In the top row, if we could go from the first gentleman on the left.
Hello, it's Barry Good.
Thank you.
Maxine Rowe.
Paul Tyler.
Thank you.
Peter Baines.
Francis Barker.
Peter Berridge. Peter Berridge.
Thank you.
Christine Berridge.
Thank you. Just turn your
sorry,
microphone off each time. Yeah.
Christine Berridge.
Thank you.
Teresa Richards.
Alan Richards. Mark Mills.
Thank you.
Janet Handley.
Jenny Eves.
Thank you. And the second row. Thank you.
Roberta Mitchell.
Thank you.
Alexander Temper.
Yeah. Thanks.
Laura Morgan.
Thanks.
Jason Morgan.
Thank you.
Gary Coots.
Thanks.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Craig McCann. I'm the District Councillor covering the Lambourne ward, which covers that address. So I'll be representing many of the residents that couldn't make it because the meeting is obviously during the working day.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much for introducing yourself. Thank you. And the two ladies at the front. Thank you on the left.
Nikki Glasscock, Environmental Enforcement.
Thank you.
Louise Coveney, Environment Enforcement.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for everybody for introducing yourself. So if I just explain how this afternoon will work. So first of all, the application will be introduced by Mr. King from the licensing department. The applicant will then present their case. The panel will be able to ask questions to the applicant. Then the objectors, they can ask questions to the applicant as well. And then the objectors, they can present their reasons as to why they may be objecting. And then the panel here can ask questions to the objectors. And then the applicant can ask the objectors questions. Then there's a closing statement. If the objectors wish to make a closing statement, they can do that. And then a closing statement from the applicant. And finally, the panel will retire to make a decision this afternoon. Okay, so if we could now start with the application introduction from the licensing department. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, an application has been made by Mr. Umar Hussain for a new premises licence at Bliss Heights, 140 London Road, Abridge. The application is for regulated entertainment only, including live music, recorded music, performance of dance, and anything of a similar description. The proposed activities are to take place both indoors and outdoors on Monday to Wednesday between 12 midday and 11 p.m, Thursdays between 10 a.m. and 11 p.m, Friday and Saturday between 9 a.m. and midnight, and on Sunday between 10 a.m. and 11 p.m. It is proposed that the opening hours of the premises shall be Monday to Thursday between 9 a.m. and 11 p.m, Friday and Saturday between 9 a.m. and 2 a.m, and Sunday between 10 a.m. and 11 p.m. The full details can be found on the application attached to the report, including the operating schedule, which sets out the conditions offered by the applicant that will be attached to the licence if the application were to be granted. All responsible authorities have received a copy of the application. It was also advertised at the premises and in a local newspaper. A copy of the blue notice and newspaper advert is attached to this report. During the consultation period, the licensing authority has received 75 valid representations in total. These include representations from the Council's Community Resilience Team, Environmental Health, Lambourne Parish Council and Abridge Park Residents Association. A further 71 representations were also received from local residents. The representations relate to all 4 licensing objectives. The subcommittee should also note that responses have been received from Essex Police, Essex County Fire and Rescue, Essex County Council Safeguarding, all of whom confirm that they have no further comment to make. Copies of all representations and responses received are attached to the report. Following submission of the application, the applicant prepared a letter to be circulated to those making comments and objections during the consultation period. This document was circulated as requested and all parties have seen a copy. However, none have withdrawn their representation. A copy of that document can be found at pages 185 and 186 of the report. The subcommittee is therefore asked to consider the application having regard to the content of the report and representations received, any additional information obtained from the hearing, the Council's own statement of licensing policy, guidance issued by the Secretary of State and the steps appropriate to promote the licensing objectives. In reaching its decision, the subcommittee may take any of the following steps as it considers necessary, and that is to grant the licence as applied for and subject to conditions mentioned in the operating schedule or modified as the subcommittee considers necessary, to exclude from the scope of the licence any licensable activity or to reject the application. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. So it's now the turn of the applicant to make their case. So who is going to talk for the applicant? Is that yourself? Yes? Okay, thank you. So, yeah, please go ahead.
Hi. You've all had the second document that I wrote in response to, or to hopefully cover some of your objections. Basically, all the objections that I saw boiled down to two issues: noise, primarily, and road safety. Secondary, there was child safety and all other things, which are all very important points, but it was down to noise and nuisance. As the noise aspect is quite rightly all about the allowance of amplified music or speech at levels that would carry beyond the boundaries of the estate to be heard and cause annoyance to neighbouring properties, of course. What has been proposed is actually to keep the mode or the operations in the pavilion area of the estate, which, as you all know, is quite a way. And in fact, the enforcement officers suggested this. This, Mr. Hussain agrees with. He'll accept that. So if we keep it to the area of the pavilion and beyond that, which is in excess of 100 metres away from the nearest neighbour. So that's the first point. The second point is really, I'm trying to keep it a little bit quicker than all this paper here. The second point about the roads. We've got two entrances. In fact, actually, we've got three entrances that we can use on this. We can bring cars in through one gate, bring them back through the other gate. The car parking is proposed to be in the pavilion area, which I don't know if anybody has got a copy of the things, but this is the road here, and the pavilion area is down here, and this is where the car park will be at the back there. So it won't impact on, well, there'll be minimum impact on neighbouring properties with closing doors and people exiting late at night. Hopefully that wouldn't happen anyway, because this is not going to be a public house. It is not going to be a pop concert. It is not going to be anything like those things. This is a private house, and it remains a private house. We're not applying for planning permission to change it to a public premises or anything like that. And it is going to be for private parties of a civilised nature, primarily weddings.
Excuse me, could you allow the applicant to make the case? Thank you.
Private functions, okay, functions. Sorry, wrong terminology. Yes, agreed. So, I've lost my thread. Basically, we're trying to keep these. Mr. Hussain is wanting to use his premises as for private functions of a civilised nature that will not impinge on the community or anything like that, not in terms of noise, not in terms of road use, and not in terms of impinging on safety or anything like that. There will not be any alcohol. We are not applying for an alcohol licence. So that again helps this situation. If you don't give Mr. Hussain a chance, how can he prove himself? How can it be? How can you say it? Anyway, I'll leave you to say that. So,
Chair, to interject. Can I just remind residents, can you give the applicant a chance just to state their case? You will have an ample opportunity to ask questions. You will have ample opportunity to state your case afterwards and also to ask questions. But it would only be fair to let the gentleman speak. Thank you,
I'll
Chair.
go back to my written speech. As was originally described in our document of 22nd of June, the proposed use of this premises and estate is to remain as an exclusive private house and grounds available for hire for private speciality functions. The facts are that these functions are expected to be weddings, anniversary events, corporate celebrations, not music festivals or wild parties or the like, and they are not going to bring in large numbers of people that cannot be accommodated comfortably within the site. In respect of our application, it is an unfortunate feature of the premises licence application that the applicant has to request permission to allow things such as, for example, amplified music between certain times, even though we do not know exactly when those times will be required, because every event will be different. Because each event will be different and each event will have different requirements depending upon the as I've just said. If the event was a wedding, there would likely be some form of music played or performed early in the event, such as background music or a live quartet playing in the initial reception for guests. This will not be highly amplified and would not cause nuisance, even at close proximity. Later, there would probably be some pre-recorded background chamber music or again small groups of musicians, followed by later by feature live band or orchestral singers or such. None of these are going to run on excessively and none are going to cause offence to the neighbouring properties. But the fact remains that amplified music is likely to be played as stated in the application form, allowing for as much flexibility as can be reasonably expected, but that makes people fear the worst. Music is intended to feature within the event, but is not likely to be the main feature of the event. In a venue that can have multiple uses, it is difficult to be specific on certain aspects. For example, the form asks if we will be showing films. The answer is no, but in an anniversary or something else, it might well be that we have some films showing in a marquee or something. Is this showing a film or not? Because of the nature of the premises in the estate, including all sporting and hospitality facilities therein, the application had to be general in nature and as all-encompassing as possible, thereby perhaps giving a false impression. If you wanted to read it that way, it has been stated and it is intended to offer the premises for hire to host weddings, corporate events, has been said, anniversaries, speciality functions like prize giving or the like, not pop music festivals or rock concerts. The existing property and facilities have been stated to have been used for private sporting events and conferences since 2007, but these were private parties and as such can be hosted by any private house without any special permission. In being able to offer a combination of celebratory or ceremonial events with recreational and sporting activities, providing unique and unusual occasions in a unique and unusual setting, Bliss Heights can and should be permitted to offer this service as a speciality, providing it can host these events without detrimental effect on accessibility or noise intrusion on its neighbours. Mr. Hussain, the owner and operator of Bliss Heights, is not new to the hospitality business. He is the owner and he has personally developed a venue in Middlesbrough at Teesside known as the Grand Astoria, which was originally a music hall theatre that has gone through many metamorphoses before Mr. Hussain created a multi-use venue that is used for weddings, conferences, university degree ceremonies, educational meetings and so on, very successfully. Like what is proposed at Bliss Heights, there are no alcohol sales in the premises. If a client requires that feature or service, an individual separate temporary licence is used. This is proposed for Bliss Heights, i.e. the premises licence application does not include for licensed bars or the provision of intoxicating liquor. Also, similar to Bliss Heights, the Grand Astoria has a commercial kitchen facility that will be used by outside contractors to provide food and refreshment to the events therein. There are no permanent retained kitchen staff, although the premises and facilities are maintained and kept up to date by Mr. Hussain and his team. Bliss Heights has kitchen facilities, both within the main house and more relevantly in the pavilion, where it is expected most events will be held and take place. This kitchen will be a full commercial standard kitchen that will be operated either by caterers hired by the event or by the client, or on their behalf by a subcontractor caterer hired by Mr. Hussain. Either way, the catering provision will be provided by a specialist using specialist facilities supplied on site and kept up to date with certification and inspection as required. We have applied for the whole of the site to be granted a premises licence to enable Bliss Heights as an operator to be as flexible and as accommodating as possible in order to be able to offer different options of event from hire and use of the whole of the site, including the house and the grounds, to individual use of each of the facilities. Using the house, and especially the outside swimming pool facility, might cause undue noise close to neighbouring properties, if not effectively controlled. Obviously, it is not the intention of Mr. Hussain to allow this to occur, but before the scenario is tested by allowing events with the grant of a premises licence covering the whole of the estate, it has been suggested by Ms. Coveney, Environmental Enforcement Officer, that the licensable activities are limited to the pavilion and the land immediately adjacent to the pavilion, as I was mentioning earlier on. This, in the first instance, would be acceptable to Mr. Hussain, on the basis that the licensing authority and the local residents can observe and experience events at Bliss Heights, and therefore it will be hopefully clear that Mr. Hussain is an operator of repute and can work with the community to achieve mutually beneficial goals. Because of the sensitivity of the location, obviously, the licence might be issued on an annual basis so that Epping Forest Council and the immediate residents can be assured that if there are any instances of concern, the licensable activities may not continue. As we are all aware, the property has 2 access gates that can be used to great effect for access and egress in a controlled and efficient manner. Car parking can and will be directed away from the residential locations, i.e. up in the vicinity of the pavilion, so that, especially at the close of events that might be late at night, noise of car doors and engines will be reduced to a minimum. There is likely to be car parking marshals in attendance, both at the entrance exits and in the car parking area, to monitor and control traffic and avoid any hold-ups or blockages. It may be decided that there should be other caveats or conditions attached to the licence, which may be temporary or deemed desirable to maintain, but without the experience of Bliss Heights and Mr. Hussain in operation, with the benefit of good, solid evidence of that operation, there should be surely no reason to withhold the issue of a premises licence. Thank you.
Thank you. So have you finished your application? Yeah, thank you very much. So it's now for the subcommittee panel to ask questions of the applicant. So, Councillor, do you have any questions?
Thank you. Good afternoon. On the question of numbers, what sort of numbers are we expecting, or are you expecting, to come to these special events?
It would be, obviously it's a large premises area, so we're not going to have 10 people. It will be likely between 250 and 500. That's what we expect. 250
and 500. Okay, you mentioned about music and noise, but mainly around a pavilion. How are you going to prevent that noise drifting over in the wind, etc., to other residences nearby?
You can't, in a simple word, but you can direct, if it was amplified, you obviously direct the amplification or the source of the noise away out towards the motorway.
Okay, except for bass notes, which you can't do anything about.
We can take advice.
You can take advice, but right at this moment, bass notes travel everywhere. Okay. The application is general in nature, so you've mentioned you've got many options. But you want sort of private civilised events. How are you going to monitor that? I mean, obviously you know who's applying, and you can say we're not going to have that art festival. But to me, there seems to be a bit of creep here, isn't there? You're saying you're going to do one thing, but actually you could actually creep a little bit and have a slightly bigger event and more than 500 people. You could have 1,000 people.
I suppose in the fullness of... no, it's... How do I answer that question? You've got to have the chance to be able to start off and work with it. If we have a limit of, for example, 750 people, we have to work to that. If we have a limit of 250 people, we have to work to that. It's just like any premises that has a capacity. We have got it's odd in our situation that we have got grounds and the ability to be able to hold an event that might be for 2,500 people. But that is not the intention at this point in time.
Well, let's go to 750 people. How does the parking stack up against that? 700 people could be like 300 cars, couldn't it?
We can accommodate 300
You can accommodate 300 cars?
Yes, we can. Do you want to see the plan?
I've driven past it many times, and I've looked at it from the sky, so I know exactly what it is.
We can accommodate 300 cars.
Okay. TENS applications. You don't want a licensing, a drinks license, but you'll cover that by having temporary notices, yes?
If it is required.
If it's required.
If it is required by the event, yes. Mr. Zane is aiming his operation at the Asian market to start off with. They're not interested in alcohol. It is not going to be an alcohol. The events are not going to have alcohol as a feature. Full stop.
Okay, that answers my next question. Was really, most events you would find have some alcohol there, weddings, etc. But if you're saying that it's mostly for the Asian community,
to begin with,
begin with, but you could open it up to. It's open to everybody, isn't it?
We will see in the fullness of time, and if it is that your good souls find the ability to be able to grant a licence, it could be, and if we wanted to start selling alcohol, we'd have to come back and ask you, wouldn't we? And we'd have to make our case.
You would indeed.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. My colleague asked some of the questions I was going to ask. Because you're not actually providing anything, just a venue. Can I just turn yours on? Just feedback. Yeah. You're not providing the caterers, you're not providing a bar, you're not providing anything, just a venue. Just a venue.
The venue already is in existence. It contains the pavilion. You heard me mention the pavilion. It is a two-storey building. It has a commercial kitchen in it. It has public toilets in it. It doesn't have a bar. The bars, there isn't a bar in existence on the place, but there are commercial kitchen facilities, and there's a fully stocked kitchen in the house, and there is also an external bank of protected fridges and what's other? There's fridges and barbecue. Yeah, there's already all the features are already in existence at the premises. There, you could go and see them this afternoon.
But what I'm saying is you're advertising it as a wedding, anniversary, pass out events place, but we're quite used to everything being all inclusive. So if we book a venue, we expect the catering to be done, the bars to be run. If as you were saying, you're just catering for a particular market to start with. So how's that all work? How are they going to come in with that? Is there going to be lorry loads of catering equipment coming in, or the barrels of beer, or whatever that people require for their wedding or anniversary or whatever.
Well, there isn't any going to be any barrels of beer. We're not asking for an alcohol licence.
No, I appreciate that, and as my colleague alluded to,
But yes,
a
of
temporary
course, there
events
will
notice.
be food. There will be food coming in on caterers' wagons.
Yeah.
Yes, there will have to be.
Right. Okay. Right, thank you, Chair.
Yeah, so I've got a question or two. So, so you say it's a private house. So who would be living in the house generally? Would family live there, or is it just rented, or what?
Yes, no, Mr. Hussain lives there. At the moment, he's still in the process. I don't know if you know, it was thoroughly wrecked by the previous occupants. It was pulled apart. It was made unsafe, etc. He is still in the process of going through the whole, not just the house, the whole of the estate, and so it is still not livable in. But he has got a flat that is part of the garages to the side, and he spends half the week there and half the week at his original house.
So when these events are happening, he and his family are going to be living in that house?
Yes.
Right, okay, thank you. And secondly, you mentioned about noise prevention and amplifying it away from the house. Who would have the qualifications to do that on the night of a party, or who would be doing that?
Has anybody got that transit card?
Yeah. It's me.
Right, we've got somebody who needs to get out in emergency.
Of course I do.
Can you adjourn then?
Do you want to jump up here too?
Ladies and gentlemen, we just need to adjourn for someone to move their car, unfortunately, in the car park. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We can start again. Thank you very much for your patience. Thank you. So I was just asking a question about the music and it being amplified away on nights with very loud music. Who would be qualified to ensure that they were amplifying it the right way? And I was also asking about security at the site at these large events. Thank you.
The music amplified, there will be a music or a sound engineer in attendance at there, so to each event, because we haven't got the sound equipment there. It will be used, it will be hired for each and every event. We haven't got a standing public address system even in the pavilion. So every event will have any equipment that is required. It might not be required, but if there is the required, anyway, that it will be hired each and every time. The pavilion is actually, and most of probably the sound will be enclosed within the pavilion. The pavilion is a double insulated structure. It's got the original construction of the building, and then it has been clad on the outside again. It's very well insulated in terms of sound, and it faces away from the residents. It faces off towards the motorway. So, and that's where all the windows are. So if any doors opened or any windows opened, they would open away from the residents. I can't tell you anything more specific about sound engineers and things like that, but we have Mr. Hussain has offered to get a sound report, to commission a sound report on this, and that is something that he will do if required, if you require it. But it is because we can't tell you exactly what sort of event it will be each and every time, all we can do is give a general impression of what, and it will help us, obviously, to be able to cater for the sound and to make sure, or to make as sure as we can be, that the sound doesn't carry. And I understand about your point earlier on about on a very calm summer's night, sound carries. It does. Yes, I agree. But we can take advice basically and see what we can actually do. The other one was about the
security on the site.
Security on the site.
Events,
Obviously, a smaller event for up to 100 people will attract very, very few cars and very, very few people. But like most pubs that we see nowadays in cities have to have security. There's no reason why we can't employ security to monitor or to look after people coming in, look after them while they're there, and then see them safely home. That will be, I can't tell you how many numbers there will be of security staff because it depends on how many numbers we're having at each event. Obviously, the more numbers that we have at an event, say 250, because that's the maximum that we are looking at the moment. We mentioned about 750 earlier on. We're not intending 750 people. We are maximum 250 at this point in time.
And who has the qualifications to decide on what security as to how many people and depending on the event? Is there
Mr. Zane,
he has the qualifications?
he's held premises licence before. He's been deemed able to do this. We can prove it, but we can give you examples of, put you in touch with Middlesbrough and see what they're thinking.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any more questions?
Yes. One more on the sound issue again, and you might. Things drifting with the wind, but bass notes aren't like that. I mean, have you ever thought about a sound test by putting some music in the pavilion on one quietish evening and turning it up until somebody can hear it or can't hear it?
This is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, getting some people in.
Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, you mentioned then that the sound or the music's all going to be in the pavilion. So why do you need the whole of the site to be covered by the licence? If it's solely going to be in there, why would you require music to be at the other side of the estate?
This, when we first applied, when I first filled out the application form and put a red line around the site and things, that is what we wanted, because we wanted to be we want to have as much flexibility as possible. Obviously, there's a pavilion there. We have another smaller pavilion at the other side of the site, but that is nearer to the residents that are immediately between Bliss Heights and Abridge. So that is not being proposed to be used at this stage because it's just too close. It could be used for a sporting event of a kids' sporting event using the football field that's immediately adjacent there at the moment, because this premises licence really covers everything. We're not just talking about the weddings. We are talking about possibility of using it for, like I've just said, kids' football. There's golf. There's all sorts of things that can be used there. But because of the reaction, I suppose, that has been spurred by the application. We are now as we've gone on through the application process, we have found that there is objection to us using the whole of the site. So why not? Let's start off small, and if it's successful, maybe we can, in the fullness of time, have a sound test and find out these things, that we can maybe expand later days. But if we can't, we can't. I'm not trying to be as unlimited as possible, but we've got to have some limitations. Am I articulating myself enough? Do you understand what I'm saying? I hope.
Thank you very much. So, have you got any other questions? We're finished.
No.
We're okay. So it's now the chance for the objectors to ask questions to the applicants. So this is for questions. You will get a chance to present your reasons for objections, but the first part of this is questions. So I'm going to go to Louise Coveney first from the Environmental Noise Officer, if that's okay. Whether you have any questions to ask the applicants at all. Thank you.
No questions.
No questions, okay. And Councillor Craig McCann, do you have any questions to the applicant at all?
Many questions, but I'm going to limit to one right now. What steps have you undertaken to engage with your neighbours on this endeavour?
I think I'd have to ask Mr. Hussain to answer that, because I can't, unfortunately. Well, Mr. Hussain says to me that he's spoken to at least 3 or 4, possibly more, but I don't know.
I think that's very telling in of itself. I just refer you to what you say within the application, the note that was circulated yesterday. Working with the community to achieve mutually beneficial goals. There's been no evidence of that thus far. Thank you.
Okay, so what I'm going to do now is quite a few of you who may want to ask questions. So I'm going to take it row by row, if that's okay, rather than putting your hands up. So the gentleman in the front, do you have any questions to ask the applicant? So this is not saying why you're objecting, but asking them questions at the moment.
Although you said it's going to be for unlicensed because of the Asian type of event, you said that was initially. So presumably you would look to throw it open later on to anybody, and anybody who wants to run a system. How do you stop the alcohol going on site in their cars? Would you open the boot of every car?
We're not doing that sort of premises. It's not going to be a car boot sale. It's not going to be things like that. No, that wouldn't be allowed.
Okay, thank you. So do you have any other questions? Or is that your only question? Have you got another question?
Yes, that's fine, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So this row here, would you like to ask a question at all to the applicant? He's just asking a question at the moment. No? That's fine. Okay, would you like to ask any questions?
I've just got one question. You mentioned that Asian people don't drink. I've got plenty of Asian people that I work with that drink. So I just thought I'd throw that one to you.
Right, do you have a question, sir?
Well, my question is, you said to everyone in this room, Asian people don't drink. I picked up on that, and I said, I work with many Asian people that do drink.
Okay, but do you have any questions to the applicants? Okay, and do you have any questions at the end there? No, okay. And the next row, oh, you do? Yeah, okay, just go ahead, thank you.
In my ignorance, is this a commercial business or a private house? Because if it's commercial, if it's not commercial, people get in for nothing. Because I don't understand what they're saying.
Okay, so you ask your question to the applicant.
Oh,
Is it a
right. Well,
commercial
I'll look
business
at
or a
him.
private house? Can you?
I
answer
can't hear
this?
what he's saying, but I'll look at him. Is this a commercial business or a private house?
It's a commercial business being carried on at a private house.
Okay.
It's, well, that it is, we have,
Right.
it's a private
So that's it. That was your
house.
question. Thank you. So, have you got any other questions at all, sir? Okay, thank you. And I think you two ladies at the back, do you have any questions to the applicants? Right. Okay. So he's asked. Do you have any other questions at this moment?
There was something you said earlier on about the house being unlivable at the moment. It's your extensive renovations because of what was done by the previous owner. Now, is it the case that actually, as of today, only a few hours ago, one of the residents found that on a billboard, Madison Ivy, that the house is actually rentable for £25,000 a month? So is the house livable in or not? Because that's a bit contradictory.
It's not livable in at the moment because essentially the kitchen is not complete, the bathrooms are not complete, so therefore in terms of a mortgageable property, etc., it is not livable in. It is in the process of being brought back to be a habitable standard. And it will be lived in by Mr. Hussain and his family. Yes. And it's not going to be rented out, no.
Why is it on the rental market then?
Sorry, it's been advertised before I purchased the property. It's with Madison Fox, who were advertising for rental, and I've asked them on numerous occasions, please could you take this off, because I haven't instructed them for rental purposes at all. It's for my own sole use. So I've got my lawyers to write to the agencies to remove that ad, and I think it was advertised by the previous owner, and they've never taken it off.
Thank you.
So if I carry on with your road councillor, so do you have any other questions, first of all? No. And the gentleman there next to you.
Just one question,
Yeah.
please. So how long will it be before the house is habitable, considering you've got 616-tonne loads of Tremel fuss to be taken out of the property, i.e. all the rubbish that was dumped there by the previous owner? So when will that be done? Because that was supposed to be done last March, wasn't it?
Unfortunately, the thermofines, I don't have the choice here. It was inherited to me when I purchased the property. And it's unforeseeable circumstances where I had the contractors carrying out some of the work. I've got another contractor who will be removing the thermofines to a waste recycling company in due course. We're working on that, and we're working with the EA and the council and the enforcement. They have gave us extension on that. But going back to the house, obviously there was no bathrooms or toilets or boilers, so I'm actually refurbishing the house as we speak.
Okay, thank you. And the gentleman next to you, do you have any questions at all? No? Do you? Yeah, go ahead, please.
Hi. We actually live next door to 140 London Road. I've just got a couple of questions. We currently have a nightmare even pulling off of our drive because of the traffic. In fact, when my daughter tries to reverse off our drive, we have to go and stand in the middle of the road and stop the traffic. So my question is, how are you going to address the traffic outside the property when there's no street lights, there's no parking and there's no stopping? And we know that if you actually slow down to pull into a property, people overtake. It's a really dangerous road. There's been so many accidents. I've lived there for the last 17 years. We've had fatalities, crashes outside the property. So I know you've stated what you're going to do inside the property, but I'd like to know how you're going to deal with an extra 250 to 500 cars in and out of London Road.
Okay, thank you. Over to the applicant. Thank you.
You are exaggerating things with 250, 300 cars or whatever. There's not going to be that many.
Sorry, I thought that was what...
I said what you said.
You just said it.
Yeah, no, sorry as well. I'm just looking at the letter that was actually signed off by Omar on the 23rd of June, forwarded by Peter Jones, where he actually states that it's between 50 to 500 attendees. So I just assumed...
Not cars. Anyway,
sorry?
that's...
No, 500 people. Surely that's a couple of hundred cars,
So
isn't
could
it?
you, sorry, the applicants, could you just answer the question?
Yeah,
How are you
thank
going
you.
to deal with the traffic, please?
Yes. I would suggest that if that is the case of the situation outside, we really need some extra lighting out there, don't we?
Street lights. We've tried to get street lights. We've been there 18 years. So, yeah.
Okay, so is that your answer? Have you finished?
We've got lighting inside, yes.
Inside? Yeah. Inside, yeah.
Inside, but if that's the case, if what you're talking about, it sounds to me as if we need some lighting outside as well.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So do you have another question?
Just one more question.
Yeah.
Our garden is still actually in your plan, the piece of land that we bought. I've told numerous people over the last 6 months, but the outlined in red is actually the piece of land that we bought off the previous owner. So I just wondered why that hadn't been updated. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, obviously the land was sold by the previous owner to yourselves on our title deeds. We need to mark that because we still own the freehold. You've got the long lease on that, so we have to edge that, but it's not on the actual site plan. Your demise doesn't cover in the site plan at all. Thank you.
Right, okay, thank you. And do you have any questions, gentleman in the blue?
Yeah, this question was just about the adjacent retirement home for the across the road. Have they ever been consulted with noise?
I did speak to the landowner for, is it the Park Homes?
It's a retirement home, yeah.
Yeah, I did speak to the chap there, and I did mention him about my proposal. And obviously we are well set away from Park Home anyway. We're completely on the other side near the river. So I think it shouldn't really make a lot of impact to Park Homes at all.
Okay. Sorry, the entrance to the retirement home is adjacent to your entrance, and although the pavilion you're suggesting is away from them, obviously they're not going to teleport themselves to there. So you'd have a flow of traffic. When you said that you spoke to someone, is that while walking a dog and having a chat, or there's 150 residents that live there? What?
I actually spoke to the owner who owns the freehold of Park Homes, sorry. And I had a lengthy discussion. The actual site is further down near the fields. It's not really adjacent to our demise, and where our pavilion is, it's adjacent to Chase Meadows, which is 146 London Road. Just before the roundabout, that's where our pavilion is, right at the bottom. We can show you the map if you would like to.
No. I'm a resident of 16 years, so I'm aware of it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And the lady at the end, do you have any questions? Thank you.
Hi, my first question is, how will an acoustic report ever be carried out if you're never actually going to have the sound equipment on site? If you're going to be renting out the equipment, it all varies. So how is there ever going to be a particular report drawn up for those premises if you're actually not going to have the equipment on site?
We just had a sound, we're in the process of having a sound test report done as we speak. That will, it will have the decibel, it will have a level which it just cuts through, and it won't allow the volume or the frequency or any output going above that noise transmitter. So we will make sure, and our ability is to keep the noise down as much as we can in the pavilion. As John stated earlier on, it's sound insulated, it's got cavity walls, block walls, and it's got the cladding outside.
Okay, but it still has windows. Right, okay. And then, obviously you've carried out private weddings and stuff in the past on the premises, so will you be getting, you know, a civic ceremony or wedding licence on top of this music licence?
In due course, we probably apply for wedding ceremonies licence, yes, because as John mentioned earlier, I know it's a big estate. We've got 60 acres of land there, but I mean we've got this landscape garden with the dome and the pillars and the fire pits and the swimming pool with a lovely staircase, and I think it will be a fantastic place for people to do their weddings, for photo shots as well. But the main event where you'll have a bit of music and food will be held in the pavilion at the rear.
So sorry, so what exactly has this been set up with initially now? Because I thought that it's about weddings as well as everything else. So it's not going to be weddings first of all, so what is it going to be?
It is going to be weddings.
Right. Yeah. So you will need a wedding licence?
If they want to hold any ceremonies. If not, they could hold any ceremonies at church or other worship places, and they could come and have their after party or event at our pavilion.
Okay. I've still got a few more.
Can I just expand on that? We actually applied for a wedding licence originally, before we applied for the premises licence. And in the process of that application, it came out that we needed a premises licence before we got a wedding licence.
But the premises licence actually got withdrawn due to all those objections, which is now you're going down the route of the live music licence instead.
It's the questions on the form. You have to go, and if we don't answer them truthfully, we would be falling foul of the premises licence in the first place. So we have to state things.
Right, okay, can we go back to your other questions? Thank you.
Right, what safeguarding or risk assessments will be in place for the safety of the children that will be on site?
There won't be any children because it's a bespoke, high-end kind of a private events. But if there were any children, obviously we've got a nice play area which is secured by metal green railings, which the previous owner was using for children anyway, where you got these slides and you got the artificial soft kind of grounds for kids to play around with, and it's all secured. It's got cameras and it's got metal gates.
Next, obviously you have a pool there, so kids could have pool parties and everything with regards to the use of the premises. So will there always be a first aider or / lifeguard on site for if you are using the pool for these events?
Absolutely, there will be first aids and there will be a lifeguard there if there were any pool parties.
Trained lifeguards.
Yeah.
And on the other side of the coin, when it comes to noise and protecting children, how will this affect the children, babies and toddlers of the local community having to listen to noise up to 11 p.m. at night, regardless of it being one night a week or all 7 nights of the week? It's going to affect their sleep, it's going to affect their education. It's the most important part of growing up as a child is to get enough sleep, not being kept up half the night.
Well, as I stated earlier on, the pavilion is well away from the actual main house. I can't even see it from my own main residence because it's set back very far towards the end, near the river, and it will be any event at night will be in the pavilion rather than outside the pavilion.
Okay, well, again, I think again the issue is the fact with the acoustic report, because even where I live, which is quite a way away from you, I can still hear the M11, which is obviously beyond your house. So, okay. And how many, as an estimate, how many temporary alcohol licences do you foresee having to apply for per year?
I will not be applying for alcohol licence because, with respect, it's against my religion and I don't drink. If you go on the licences board at Middlesbrough Council, I've got a premises licence without alcohol, and I've been running that for 10 years without alcohol.
No, I'm saying that people that want to hire your venue for an event, they can obviously apply for a temporary alcohol licence. So how many do you think that will be, an estimate per year of how many temporary alcohol licences?
I would, if that is the case, which I really don't want to go through that route, I wouldn't allow more than probably 10 or 15, which is the council's requirement.
So over once a month?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have many more questions? How many more questions have you got? Because
I don't know. There's just
okay.
I've just got it's just scattered everywhere. How many? What's the capacity of the pavilion?
250.
250. And then, how can we be sure that you'll only stick to the pavilion and not use other areas? If you want to change the licence from a live music licence, by then claiming that it's at a private event in other areas of the premises?
Well, I really don't want to go more than that. The reason is because I'm aiming for a niche market, high-end market, where you get certain celebrities and stars and actors would like to use our premises for a private event rather than them being in the open public. And the landscape garden, which some of the neighbours probably are aware of, has been well maintained, and it's got the water feature with the maze. It's a very high-end garden which I want to maintain, and the more people, it will destroy my garden. So I want to keep it as a niche market where people could take the photography, photos, and we want to just keep it to a selective market with a minimum.
Okay,
numbers.
and then it was mentioned that no bar is actually inside the pavilion. So how will drinks be served? Whether that just be soft drinks, if there actually isn't somewhere for the drinks to be given to the guests?
Yeah, we will be creating a kind of a portable table for virgin kind of mocktails and pina coladas and soft drinks. But I don't believe in alcohol, as I said.
Okay. Right, that's all.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for the questions. So if I start with the back row, do you have any questions, sir, at all?
Just very unclear on the presentation of this. So you own and operate commercial entertainment and leisure facilities. We know that. This is a private residence. We know you've gone down a route of certificate of lawfulness to change it to a commercial property. You can't do that without the licence, so you've had to apply for the licence. The way you've presented today has been very contradictory. You talk about public toilets, commercial kitchens. It's a very high-end residential property, and those properties have these facilities anyway. I'm just trying to really understand your proposals here. Are you trying to turn a private residence into a commercial facility like your previous entertainment venue spaces that you've dealt with in the past?
Well, my main residence it'll be my sole use for my private, domestic and pleasure. And the facility which was there, obviously, it's been there for numerous of years, the pavilion where they had the football trainings and private events.
Sorry, I'm not talking about previously, I'm talking about from now on.
And from now on as well, I mean, because I've got the facility there on the grounds, I will be utilising the grounds as a commercial element, but the house remains as my private residence.
The licence application is for the whole site, which includes the private property. So the question stands, is it going to be a private property or is it going to be a commercial property?
It's a private property. It's been stated numerous times. It is a private property. It's a bit, if you think of it more like a stately home, they have to have premises licences and things to be able to do what they do with it. And think of it more like that than a Glastonbury or whatever you want to. I don't know. It is a private house being used to have the facility to be able to be used commercially.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any other questions, sir?
Sorry, Chair. Can I just? Sorry to interrupt, Chair. Can I just clarify a few points that I think will aid the committee? A number of things have been said that aren't quite accurate. in the sense that to obtain a wedding licence, you first require a premises licence. Well, that's not true. The same goes for a stately home. And the same goes for a premises that wants to host golf or football events. We are aware, in terms of planning, that there was a certificate of lawfulness was previously submitted under the previous name of Chase Meadows. However, that's been withdrawn following advice that it would not be granted. We're also aware that Mr Hussain would need to apply for a change of use if the premises licence was granted. Thank you.
Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, we need to adjourn again. I've got to move my car this time. Very sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, we're just waiting for our legal representative to come back. Thank you for your patience, everybody. So if we could just go back to David King, he was giving us some information. Would you mind going back to where you were?
Yes, thank you, Chair. It was just to clarify that the applicant suggested that you needed a premises licence in order to obtain a wedding licence. You don't. They're two separate entities, and the same goes for stately homes. And also, you wouldn't require a premises licence to have golf or football events. They're not licensable, and therefore premises licence is not required. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So the lady in the pink, if you've got any questions, yeah, please.
Yeah, I just want to echo what this gentleman said. I'm sat here and I'm more confused than I was when you started. There's, we had, children coming on to play football, and then we've had you telling us there's going to be no football. We've had numbers varying from 250 to 750, and now we're back down at 250. We keep hearing about the pavilion, but this is talking about the whole property. Have you got a clear picture of what it is you want going forward?
Yes, in the first instance, it is like, well, if we follow Louise's suggestion that we keep things in, we've applied for a premises licence for the whole of the property. It has been suggested that we reduce the area, i.e. the red line around it, so it doesn't include the main house. It only includes the pavilion and the immediate surrounding area of the pavilion. It seems that that is probably a realistic and practical option to be able to limit the licensed activities to that area, because it gives Mr Hussain an opportunity to prove to you guys that he is a reputable operator. He can bring traffic in and out of the site safely. He can look after the site, and he can avoid noise pollution. So we keep it to the area of the pavilion in the first instance, and if in the fullness of time, and as we go on, if he manages to go on successfully, then we can come back here and apply again to expand it. But obviously, we will be doing it with experience then. We will know we will have a better idea of what the issues are, what the problems are, and what we have to address. And I think that's essentially what Louise has come up with is a practical solution.
So basically, you're saying this is just the first step in your bigger plan.
Well, if it doesn't, yes, that's the hope, because there's no point in having such a wonderful premises there And because it's massive and it's very luxurious.
Yeah, no, I know.
And it's fabulous. So why can't we use that as to hire out and to use commercially rather than just have it as a private home?
Because it is a private home,
but at the moment, no, we can't. And we're not actually saying that at this point in time. It is going to remain a private house for Mr. Hussain and for his family.
Okay, so thank you. Do you have any other questions?
Sorry?
Have you got another question?
Yeah, so if that was the plan, why was the initial application for the whole property?
Because that's what we wanted.
So it's never really been wanted as a private premises?
No, it is. It is going to remain as a private house. We don't want to make it into an exclusive hotel or anything like that. It is, at this point in time, yes, that it was always the plan that it was going to remain as a private house.
Okay, so can I just clarify earlier when you said about using the house and the gardens?
Yes.
That this is what I mean. It's very contradictory.
It's a difficult concept. It is a difficult concept.
It's not a difficult concept
it's not conventional. It's not conventional, no. Yes.
And you've talked a lot about music. How are you going to deal with the noise of 500 people? You can't point them towards the motorway, can you?
Well, it's not going to be a raucous event like that.
No, but 500 people talking
there's not, and we're not talking about 500 people at this
point.
point.
Oh, no, I'm just going on your figures.
Yes, I know. Well, no, there's not going to be 500 people.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any other questions at all?
Actually, one that the lady... I work in the local school.
Okay.
So I've got a vested interest in the children in the village, and I just, wonder how you're going to avoid affecting their sleep and their education.
I don't quite understand. I don't know quite how I can respond to that. It is not the intention of us to be able to be creating problems in the community. There's no point in doing that, is there?
No, there isn't, but unfortunately what you're proposing is going to.
No.
I mean, as I say, I work at the local school. We had our school fete, and we had a little microphone and a little bit of music.
Yes.
And people as far down as the Abridge Park could hear that quite loudly. And that was a little school fete.
Do you have any other questions beyond that? Thank you very much. And the lady next to you, do you have any questions at all?
I'm just waiting for my colleague to come back.
Okay. And the gentleman next to you, do you have any questions? Thank you.
I'll get this right in a moment. I'd just like to say something about this this holier than thou venue.
Is this a question? We're on questions at the moment. In a moment, we'll have a chance.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. And the lady next to you, do you have any questions at all? No more. Anyone else on the end there? The next four people, do you have any questions at all? Anybody?
Yeah, I have one. I'm just wondering why Mr. Hussain feels it helpful to extol his skills in setting up the venue at Middlesbrough when that's in the middle of a town, and actually we're talking about something which is in the middle of a village. So I just wonder why that is helpful.
Yeah, you're able to comment on that, please, applicants.
The fact is that he's held the simple fact is he's held a premises licence for a lot of years. He's never had it objected to or removed or anything like that. He's successfully held a premises licence, so he is aware of what he has to do and what he has to the hoops that he has to jump through. That was my point.
Okay, thank you. So we've gone through quite a lot of questions. Is there anyone else that has a question that hasn't been looked at yet? Yeah, please, put your microphone on and you can ask a question.
I'm a part of the committee for the Residents Association on the Abridge Park, which this gentleman mentioned. We're here, two of us, to represent over 100 people who couldn't submit an application.
Is this a question? Just checking.
The question is this, come from all of them. The traffic that comes through Abridge now It's horrendous anyway. We don't need additional traffic. Most of them, if the M11, M25 gets blocked, they all come through, they want to get the 406 and then join the M11 later on. At the moment, we have endless roadworks. It's not school term now, but when it is, it's almost shut down. Weybridge stops. Any amount of traffic, no matter how often you come through there, will cause exactly that. More regular than our normal daily commute. And I commute every day, and it's terrible. Anything you put down there by the roundabout, by the house, any cars that come there are going to park, as this lady says, they're going to park on the pavements, in the road, there's going to be accidents. We can't get a zebra crossing down there. We've had people die down there. We can't get a zebra crossing. Council say no. How are they going to allow
is your
this?
question about traffic? Is that what your question is?
I
How
want to
you're
know what
going
they're
to
going
deal
to
with
do
traffic?
to prevent,
Do you want to answer
build
that?
up on traffic.
How you intend to deal with traffic for this gentleman?
It's natural in and out of the site. There's no reason why. Yes, it is a busy road. I understand that. Yeah, but we have also got, people have mentioned the golf club down there. We've got the service station, the petrol station, and things. There are businesses down there, and it doesn't impact on it. There may. We will have to manage it. We'll certainly have to manage it, and that's the way that we're going to do it.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just complete that?
Is this a question?
It is a question.
Follow-up question, okay.
It's to the council as well. How are you going to manage it?
Yeah.
Use traffic marshals.
Right, okay.
Sorry,
so thank
use
you. So,
what?
so your
Use-
question, he's answered it. He said use traffic marshals. Okay, is there anyone has any other questions from the objectors that has not been covered? Or have you all asked the questions you wanted to ask? Yeah, okay. I'll allow one more question for this.
Just one more question, and that was regarding the times that were given for the live music licence. You actually said that the premises would close and the event would close at 11 p.m. on those particular dates that it was shut at 11 p.m. So what would happen about tidying up and the people that are there leaving the premises? Would that be after 11 p.m. or would it mean that you're shutting up shop and the business is closed at 11 p.m?
It will be, it's a good question. It will be sharp 11 o'clock, everyone's out. That means finishing time will be about 9:30, 10, and everyone's out by 11.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So the objectors have had their opportunity to ask questions to the applicant. So it's now the opportunity for the objectors to present the reasons why they're objecting. Some of these reasons are going to be very similar, so we'll try not to repeat. So I'm going to use the same model as I did earlier. I'm going to start with the environmental noise officer. Do you have what your objections? If you want to present your objections, it's up to you. I'll just give you the opportunity to do that first. Thank you.
No further from us.
No.
We've obviously stated what we've stated in the report.
Sure, thank you very much. And Councillor Craig McCann, do you have anything further to add to your objections?
Yes, just to say that I've been the councillor for this ward since May, and this issue has dominated my inbox above everything else. I'd say, from what I've heard today, I am even less assured than what I've read thus far on behalf of my residents. The initial application is full of holes. I don't know who filled this in, but there are glaring issues here around asking for detail. This is your opportunity to give this committee detail around what this venue is going to be used for, and there are question marks throughout. The language used is so expansive to be effectively meaningless. What you're asking for is a licence to do what you want when you want. Every day, and we've spoken about, we've gone on a journey from wedding venue to sports. You've even mentioned, I think, actually very unhelpfully, Glastonbury in the context of this conversation. I think that demonstrates, almost, I think, borderline the contemptual way in which this has been approached. The letter received by residents yesterday, where you set out, it is an unfortunate feature of the premises licence application that the applicant has to request permission to allow such things as, for example, amplified music between certain times, even though we do not know exactly when it will be required. It's almost as if these proceedings are something of an inconvenience for you, because you have to give some detail as to what it is you want to do on this site. It would almost be laughable if there wasn't such a huge impact potentially on my residents. What you've suggested is that we'll suck it and see for a year and see how we get on. Well, that's not acceptable in any way, shape or form. So we're going to limit it down, unknown numbers, unknown timings. We'd like the opportunity to prove ourselves. Well, trust is earned, it's not given away. I asked the question very pointedly earlier on, what engagement you've had with residents thus far? Hardly any. You looked at each other, you couldn't even answer the question. You cannot expect to take, and I've seen, obviously, yes, you run the Grand Astoria up in Middlesbrough. That is an entirely different business offering to what is being suggested here. You're in the middle of, your neighbour on that high road is Primark. We're dealing with all these residents here. What you're suggesting is plonking this venue in the middle of their homes with absolutely no control around how to mitigate its impact on them. What you're asking for is a licence to basically, it's a blank cheque that will write you and say, best of luck, get on with it, please don't have an impact on our residents. But what you've said today almost is giving you a licence for some plausible deniability. You want to provide the venue, other people provide the temporary alcohol licences, other people come and take responsibility for the music, so that when my neighbours knock on your door and say, you're making our lives unlivable, it's a living hell here, you can point and say, it wasn't me, Gov, it was them. So my issue is the expansive nature of this application. I cannot see that you've even given the committee the basis on which to build any kind of controls. I think from what I've read in these documents, you need to go away and fundamentally revise what your business offering even is. We've had numbers flying around the room. You don't even know what the nature of the events is going to be. But trust us, we'll do it for a year and you'll give us the evidence base we need to come back with a fuller application. That is completely unsatisfactory. The impact on residents thus far, and you can see from the number of people, the depth of feeling in this community, I think we cannot expose them to what you're suggesting over this amount of time. Some of the things in here, false impression, you've done nothing. You said thereby given a false impression on page number 2. You've done nothing to mitigate those concerns for me and my residents. If you wanted to read it that way, there's an unnecessary level of combative language in this document. How am I'm a smart guy. How am I meant to read it? You've asked for a blank cheque. We would like to have an unlimited licence and see how we go. So I think in summary, I think on behalf of my residents, I would strongly suggest that the committee rejects this application and that you go away and actually figure out exactly what it is you want to do on this site and take the residents on that journey with you. Because frankly, at the moment, you've come in with an application, very limited engagement, and borderline gaslighting my residents in saying, well, I don't really see what the problem is. Well, if you were living next to a venue that was pumping out this amount of noise, potentially with this amount of visitors, this amount of cars, I'd strongly suggest you'd have a problem with it too. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Could I ask that you turn your microphone off?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. So the gentleman at the front, would you like to present your objections at all? Okay, we'll start with you, yeah.
Sorry, Madam Chair, I'll keep it brief. Just so you know that I represent a number of people also that can't make today because of work commitments or bereavements or illness. And that's 17, so that's another 17 people that would be in the chamber today. But I just wanted the committee to know that. Yeah. That's, again, the depth of feeling that the councillor's already mentioned. The other one is we've talked about the noise. I'm absolutely flabbergasted that we can point noise and people towards the motorway because noise doesn't travel one way. Yes, you can change a speaker and move it off that way there, but noise goes around in a circle. It's amazing. It's a natural phenomenon, unfortunately. How are we going to stop people leaving at 11 with the car parking area of maybe 250 cars, possibly, everybody slamming their doors, laughing and joking because they've had a great day at this wonderful venue? We can't stop that. And also the people that work there, whether you've got security men or whatever, they're not going to be able to stop that either. Cars driving out to the exit as well. We live in the back of our house, we back onto the property there. How are we supposed to live with that every night of the week? And that's what they're proposing every single night of the week. The other one is that we said about the noise there. Langston Road is 1.1 miles away from our premises. It wasn't so many years ago that the environmental officers were called out there almost on a weekly basis for noise from a music venue. The marquee in the pavilion is 300 metres from our back doors. So no matter how padded that's going to be or how many padded walls they've got, they're never going to stop that noise coming. And we're going to have to live with that all the time. The only other thing I want to say is that they're never going to say no to the event. It's a commercial venue. And if you're running a commercial venue, you're never going to turn anything down. So the high-end venues they're talking about with a smart piece of chamber music, I'm afraid is a fantasy event. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Gentleman next to you, do you have anything to add to that? Anyone else along that row? Okay. No, and the back row, does anybody have anything to add to what's been said? Yes, sir. Yeah. Can you put the microphone on, please? Yeah, thank you.
There's two of us representing Abridge Park. Again, like this gentleman, if they could all get up and come, and they're all over 55 and a lot of them retired, it's a semi-retirement park. Yeah. We're also, within our licence, guaranteed peace and quiet, to be honest with you. At the end of the day, we could have brought 150 people here as well. So we're undernumbered here, but the feeling is strong.
Okay, thank you very much. And yes, would you like to say something?
Can I just ask you, with your other venue...
And this is not asking questions now, we've done questions.
All right,
so this is
with your other venue,
reasons.
I'm assuming you said you haven't got a drink licence, but people have drunk on those premises, I take it?
We're not asking questions, you're presenting while you're objecting. So if you...
Well, that is why I'm objecting,
okay,
because
so
they're saying there's not going to be a drink licence, but I'm sure that if somebody wants a wedding at yours, you're going to direct them to somebody to apply for a drink licence. Oh, so you're not now?
So they're not answering because you're presenting your objections. And do you have something to say as well?
Yeah, just the process so far has been pretty unprofessional, really. I mean, I'm in property myself. I go through planning applications regularly. The process to date with the certificate of lawfulness, this licensing, which may be the whole site, might not be the whole site. If I did this on any of the projects or deals I had to deal with, I wouldn't have a job for long. What worries me is this process has just started. If we ever got into an operational part of this business, I dread to think what would be the case. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And is there anybody in this section that would like to present their objections at all? Would you like to say anything? Yeah, if you press the switch for the microphone. Brilliant, thank you.
I just wanted to point something out. They're talking about music 7 days a week. I like to beg to differ. It's an eternal week because there's no break. You go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and you carry on again. So it's eternal. That's just like in case people ain't clocked that.
Okay, right. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. If you turn your microphone off, thank you. And has anybody here got anything they would like to add? Yes? Yes, madam.
Hello. My friend, this lady, would like me to speak on her behalf. Sure. My friend lives in London Road and was born there, so she's lived there a long time now. And well, the amount of traffic there, well, it's incredible. The size of the lorries we already see coming down the road, and coaches and, everything, you know. Already the road is so busy, and with this happening there would be an increase in traffic because, lorries would need to deliver food for catering, an increase in traffic because of people who are coming to this event, an increase in traffic because of people who work there, waiting staff, security staff, marshals, apparently, etc. So they'd all be coming there in their cars. So just an increase in traffic. This road, there have been accidents there already on the road. It's just, and there's a school in the next road, so we're concerned about the safety of the children. The school is in Lambourne Road, which is the road behind London Road. So on behalf of myself, I'd also like to say that I'm concerned about the noise, the level of noise. Of course, sound travels, we all know that, unfortunately. And I'm concerned that at these wedding venues and music venues, there would be, a DJ on a tannoy, and he'd be speaking or shouting with his tannoy up till 11 o'clock some nights and midnight other nights, and the noise would be constant when even adults are trying to sleep, and as other people have said, children are trying to sleep.
Okay, thank you. So worried about noise and traffic.
And
thank you.
It would just completely change the village.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for talking. Is there anyone else that would like to present their objections? Thank you. Yes, would you like to, could you turn the microphone off, please, Madam? And then if you could turn the microphone on, thank you. Yeah.
I'd like to represent Lambourne Parish Council with a letter. And this was to the Licensing Department, Epping Forest District Council, and the proposal was premises licence in respect of Bliss Heights. And it said, on June the 14th, 2023, Lambourne Parish Council held their monthly meeting at Abridge Village Hall, which was attended by numerous parishioners who raised concerns over the recent application on June the 7th for the premises licence in respect of Bliss Heights. The public attendees discussed the application related to Bliss Heights, and they all objected to the recent licence application, believing it represented a public nuisance. And the application is for live music, recorded music, and anything of a similar description to live music, recorded music or performance of dance, indoors and outdoors. And Monday to Wednesday, 12 noon till 11 p.m, and Thursday 10 a.m. and to 11 p.m, Friday and Saturday 9 a.m. to 12 midnight, and Sunday 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. And then it said the opening hours, and really it's the same hours. And it said, as parish councillors, many of whom have also lived in the village for many years, it is the parish council's collective view that we agree with the parishioners and are concerned how hosting events regularly with live music, both indoors and outdoors, many in the summer months, will be intolerable blight on the quiet residential village with noise travelling long distances in hot, still weather. There were additional concerns raised by residents and the council that there is no evidence of the owners running these types of events before. The details given to promote all 4 licence objectives are rather vague, with no mention about whether using a registered security company and the number of licensed security staff that will be on the property to look after large numbers of people. Also, considering the close proximity to a number of dwellings and an area already busy road, of which there have been many concerns about speeding and safety. There is no mention of how they will control the traffic coming on and off the premises, and how people will be encouraged to keep the noise level down, etc., when leaving late at night. It is noted that there is no public transport links close to the property, so anyone attending will be coming in private cars or taxis. There is no mention of provision for where people will be picked up and dropped off by taxi, which means that an already busy road is likely to have many cars stopping at the side of the road, which will cause even more congestion and public safety issues. With the above in mind, the council feel this licence should not be approved, and that if the committee feel that it should, clear guidelines as to how many events, the type of events, and number of people attending the events should be put in place and monitored on a regular basis. Thank you for considering the above comments.
Thank you very much for that. Would you be able to turn your microphone off, please? Thank you. So it's now a chance for the panel here to ask questions to the objectors. So I'm going to ask Councillor, do you have any questions for the objectors?
Nothing for the objectors.
And neither do I. I don't have any questions either. So it's now a chance for the applicant to ask questions to the objectors. So do you have any questions that you would like to ask the objectors at all?
It's difficult to explain exactly what Mr. Hussain is trying to do because it's a new concept. It's understandable that you can't get your head around the no alcohol business, but that's the way he has run the Middlesbrough operation for nearly 10 years, as I say.
Sorry, Madam Chair, this is his questions. We couldn't do that to him, so surely he can't come back with ambiguous things like this. It's a question to what we put to him, surely.
Yeah, okay, thank you. You're now asking questions to the objectors, so if you could ask any questions. Yeah.
No questions.
None? Okay. No? Okay. So, do you have it? So you don't have any questions for the objectors at all? None? You started something but you're not finishing it? Yeah? That's it? Okay.
I think we've already heard
sure that
enough. Thank you all for your comments, etc. It's sad that I have not been able to convince, or appear that I have not been able to convince you to
This is
satisfy
just questions for them. If you've got any questions for the objectors, you can sum up in a minute, but I'm just seeing if you've got any questions for the objectors at all.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. And I know there was questions raised from the opponents, basically, regarding the traffic issues. My question is that there's a lot of people cut through, which go from Chigwell all the way in between Abridge and to Thaden Boys. You got a lot of traffic. True, it travels through that road, through London Road and Abridge Road, but you got other. Like the leisure, the Top Golf, you got the venue next to that, and you got the Woolston Manor, you got the petrol services, and you got the Blue Bar, and you got the other cafes. So that's an impact itself within the vicinity of Abridge anyway. So I think there will be no difference if we.
Is this a question? It's only a question.
So, okay. The question is, how would you avoid that traffic going through London Road and Abridge Road? That's a big question.
With the greatest respect, that's not our problem, Madam Speaker.
That's not something they can answer really because they're objectors. Did you have any questions about their objections at all?
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay. So it's now a chance for the objectors to say a closing statement or how they feel at the end. So is there anybody, Councillor, would you like to have a closing statement?
Please, anyone, feel free to jump in afterwards if I miss any salient points. But just to summarise, this is an issue that struck to the very heart of this community. What's been proposed is a fundamental change to the use of this premises. There has been hardly any infinitesimal consultation, which is staggering, with the local residents to bring them along this journey. I think the open check manner in which this has been pitched is quite astonishing, and I think to the gentleman behind me, I think questioning the very professionalism of this application. Coming into a community and asking them to go with you on a journey, but not giving them the detail, no assurances whatsoever, and then I think insinuating in these proceedings that maybe we're missing the point. We can't get our head around what's been presented. I think is insulting. Actually, I think you've got some very intelligent, articulate people in this community. If you are unable to come in and clearly articulate what your business offering is, that's not the issue of residents. That's your issue. So you've not brought residents along on this journey with you. I would, in summary, I would strongly appeal to the committee to not grant this licence with conditions. I don't think the applicant's given you anything, any firm basis on which to make any conditions. I would strongly urge the committee to reject this application and ask the applicants to go away and think about, reflect upon these proceedings, to think about what it is their business offering actually is and start engaging with their neighbours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. You, as the applicant, now have the opportunity to make a closing statement and sum up how you feel. Would you like to do that?
Thank you for your comments. They're illuminating, and all I can say is that we have tried to be as clear as possible as to what Mr. Hussain is proposing to do. It is quite simply, really, at this stage in time, it's 250 people in the vicinity of the pavilion, and it's for primarily Asian weddings without any alcohol, but with catering, contract catering, and it won't be 7 days a week. It will be probably 12, 15 times a year. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. So the subcommittee panel will now retire to make a decision this afternoon. So if you could just wait there, you'll be directed as to where to wait. You will come out of the room while we're in here. So Mr. King, would you be able to direct where people go? Thank you. If you want to wait for a decision, then I'll see you when we've made a decision. Thank you.
Time to go to the boys' room.
The Licensing Subcommittee considered an application for a premises licence for Bliss Heights, 140 London Road, Abridge, RM1 1XX, in accordance with the details starting on page 13 of the agenda. The representations in support and against the application have been taken into account, and we have also considered what is appropriate to promote the 4 licensing objectives and the relevant parts of the Council's licensing policy and government guidance. During our deliberations in private session, no issue of law or policy arose, and so the subcommittee were not required to call on officers for advice. The committee noted all the submissions and representations, both oral and written, made in relation to this application. The decision of this subcommittee is that the application for a premises licence in respect of Bliss Heights, 140 London Road, Abridge, RM4 1XX be refused. I will now outline the reasons for the subcommittee's refusal of this application in relation to the licensing objectives. In relation to public safety, the applicant has failed to demonstrate to the subcommittee how public safety will be maintained on site with regard to adult and child safeguarding. The applicant has also failed to demonstrate how highway safety will be maintained for entry and exiting the site for the events. In relation to the prevention of public nuisance, the applicant has failed to provide sufficient information to satisfy the subcommittee of the mitigation measures for the prevention of public nuisance regarding noise disturbance to local residents. In relation to the protection of children from harm, the applicant mentioned there may be children's pool parties or other events for children on site. However, insufficient information has been provided to satisfy the subcommittee of the measures that will be implemented, ensuring the protection of children from harm. The applicant and the persons who have made representations are reminded of their right of appeal to the Magistrates' Court within 21 days of the date of the written notification of this decision. So I'd like to thank everybody for coming, have a safe journey home, and I'm declaring the meeting closed. Thank you.